Welcome to another edition of Community Buzz. Real news about our community that you can't find anywhere else. I'm Peter Roper, and today we'll be talking about an issue that affects every community and way too many families. Our guests are from Safe Futures, Boaz,
Hello. Development
Associate, and Nazmie Batista, who's the Associate Director for Residential Programs. They both work for Safe Futures, which has offices in New London and in Norwich, but you're both in New London, correct? Yep. Welcome to you both. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Glad you could come and share information about your programs and what you're doing, and maybe get some support for your program in the process. Either or both of you can explain what Safe Futures is, what you do, and a little bit of background, and also, I guess you're having an anniversary this year.
Yep.
And you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we're celebrating 40 years this year, which is a big milestone for us. 40 years ago, we just had a rape crisis hotline that was only open a few hours during the week, and now we operate 2 24-hour hotlines for victims of domestic violence and sexual assault to call when they are in a crisis or have questions and concerns about their relationships. We have emergency shelter, transitional living programs. We do a lot in the community. We have our Violence is Preventable program, which educates the youth in our community so they can hopefully not be in unhealthy relationships.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We also have court advocates, civil and criminal, in Norwich and New London Court. We have a victim law.
So that means you help people when they have to go to court.
Absolutely, yeah. 37% of the cases seen in court, in criminal court, are domestic violence related. So we have advocates in court who can support our clients. We also have a victim advocate who works with the Norwich Police Department, and she goes off-site and visits with a police officer. And we also are connected with and work with all of the police departments in southeastern Connecticut with something we call the lethality assessment program. And the police go into the home after, during a domestic violence call, and they do a screening, and they immediately connect the victim to our hotline and our services.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So how many people work for Safe Futures?
I think actual staff members is probably under 40 people.
Right.
We are a small shop, but we serve a lot of people. We serve annually about 5,000 people in this community, both women, children, and men.
Mm-hmm. And what is the mission statement? I had that written down in my initial...
Our mission statement is to save lives, restore hope, and change the future for victims of domestic violence and sexual assault in southeastern Connecticut.
Mm-hmm. Great. And I know it initially as Women's Center of Southeast Connecticut,
right.
And I think a lot of people probably still know it as
yes.
that. It wasn't too long ago you changed the name, right?
Correct.
Right. So about 5 years ago,
okay.
The name changed because we really wanted our agency to reflect the community we serve, and we also really wanted to tell the story that domestic violence, sexual assault affects everyone, families, individuals.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what race, gender, ability, religion, it doesn't matter. It affects everyone.
So that's a pretty big program, lots going on. I should explain that I came to this, I've been a supporter, and I really like the Men Against Domestic Violence that you do, the advertisement in Norwich Bulletin, I think, in the day.
Correct.
I've done that for a long time, and I always look to see who's in there and try to get other people to do it. But this program is a result of Pamela Pike-Gordonier, who's a friend, and she's an artist and an activist, and she was inspired by Safe Futures, and she has done an installation in their shoes, which is at Lyman Allen Museum, and that's where I met you. And she's also wants to let the community know about Safe Futures, and so she's trying to inspire people and get people involved and use her voice as an artist to do that. We're going to have a clip, I think, of that installation at Lyman Allen, And maybe you could talk a little bit about that, Amanda, since you know about how Pam got to do that exhibit.
Yeah, so she, a friend of hers is a supporter of Safe Futures, and Pam came to one of our tours of our mission to learn more about the work that we do, and she just really grasped onto what it is that we're doing and felt really moved, and decided to, as a way to give back and as a way to bring awareness and social change, took the 170 of the clients that were in our shelter in 2016 and used them to represent the shoes in the exhibit and the maze of a quiet meditation. One of the things that she wanted to do was bring hope to such a tragic situation.
She said it was new. She used new shoes because
Yes.
she wanted. It's a
Right.
new beginning or new
Right.
step, new future. So
Yes, I think
was
Nazmie
President.
would agree with me. Doing the work that we do, it can be difficult at times, but we get to see the other side of it, of people feeling empowered and feeling hopeful and moving forward on a great path.
Right.
And as you walk through the exhibit, there's sound of survivors' voices speaking to what they hope for, which is really powerful when you're standing in the middle and you're looking at, a little pair of baby shoes and knowing that that's attached to a little child that had to leave their home and everything they knew to become safe. It's really powerful, and I think gives people a way to learn about us in a unique way. Art gives us the opportunity to be vulnerable, and that's really what Pam's helping us to do, is allow people that freedom to talk
yeah,
Right.
about the issues.
yeah.
Right.
And then she used shoe boxes to make an archway.
Correct.
And artifacts from Safe Futures
Right.
residential
Right.
Yeah, because when people
detritus,
leave,
I guess, and things that people had used or left.
Right.
yeah, when people leave and they have to go to the shelter, they're leaving everything. So it's a major decision, and it's a hard decision to do, but it's for their safety. And so, clothing, shoes, toiletries, hair care products, we have to support that, and we supply that for them to give them something positive and
Familiar.
familiar.
I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I've donated some building materials at one time. Someone had some things that they wanted to find a home for, and I said, well, I think Safe Futures needs all kinds of things, and
Right.
it's true. Your warehouse or storage area has everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so people should know that almost anything that they want to get rid of, you might be able to use. And
Not everything.
Not everything, but usable things.
Yeah.
Usable things,
And
yes.
certainly money to buy things that you need for these people.
Right.
The other part of Pam's inspiration, I guess, was to organize 2 collaborative performances with dancers, poets, artists, and some of the staff. We went to the one that was at Lyman Allen, and it was very moving. The dance was amazing, and I
Yeah.
don't know if you want to talk about that, but that will be on a later show, Community Buzz. And the second show is coming on June 28th at 5 o'clock at Lyman Allen Museum. So you can go to Lyman Allen's website and check that out. I recommend it. In the meantime, you could go see the exhibit at Lyman Allen too, which is there till the end of the month. So, yeah, watch Channel 12 because there will be clips from the performances later as a program, and this program will air before that possibly. So I want to talk a little bit about the organization and what you want people to know about your group, and we did talk about the shoes represent the 170 people or so that you've housed and protected for 2016, right?
Yes.
So why don't you talk about what it is you do and how that affects people?
Okay. So we offer emergency crisis services to victims or survivors in southeastern Connecticut. And we do that in different ways. We have our counseling offices, like you mentioned earlier, in Norwich and New London. So people who wanted to come in and talk about, am I in an unhealthy relationship, or I think I need help, or just I want somebody to listen to. So that's during business hours, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And they can walk in, they can make an appointment, and we offer free, confidential, informative counseling. And also we have our emergency shelter, and we work with 17 other programs in the state of Connecticut. So that means that if we're over capacity or we're full, which we are most of the time, that does not mean that our interaction with that person ends there. We will work around the clock to make sure that that person gets to a safe place, whether it's with us or with one of our sister programs. And We also have transitional living programs, which means maybe a person identifies as safe in the community, but they need a little bit of a boost or some time before they're ready to transition to housing on their own. And there's case management and help and different services attached while they live in the program with us. And so, anything else?
I think one of the things that we try to strive for at Safe Futures is we're about communities. We team up with, as you mentioned,
Right.
the law enforcement. We team up with other social service agencies. As we mentioned, this issue affects everyone. And so everyone needs to be involved. Everyone needs to get education about what does abuse look like. It's physical, it's emotional, it's verbal, it's financial. A lot of times when victims come,
Right.
you know, when we talk about what the cycle of abuse looks like and what violence is, they sort of have this aha moment, like that's what's been happening in my life and I didn't realize it. So Pam doing this program is sort of helping people to learn about it so that way as a community we can work together to eliminate this issue in our community and not tolerate violence anymore.
Yeah.
I found the dance interesting in that there are like 7 steps or 7
Passes.
7 passes, yes.
passes where people may leave a relationship or try to get help, and then they
Right.
don't necessarily do it.
Right.
And it may take 7 times. Is that
Right.
is that an average, or is that pretty typical?
That's, yeah, statistically it's 7 times that a person, you know, goes between like trying to leave and going back, and that's like the most dangerous time for a person when they're trying to get away. So I think what the installation did really beautifully was to show how much of that is hard, and it doesn't, I think one of the things it shows the community is that people need support. They need people who will say, I'll be there for you, I'll listen to you, I won't judge you, because it's hard. I mean, there's lots of reasons why people stay. They're not, you know, they're not financially stable. They don't have any supports. You know, they're isolated from their family or friends. They're ashamed. They're afraid. It's the only support system they have financially, so they can't think like, well, how am I going to, you know, feed my children or myself? I never was able to get a job, or I don't have an education. There's so many things that a person has to consider. And it's also really scary, right, to think I have to start over, or I have to go to a stranger and ask for help, or I have to tell them all the things that nobody knows about me, not even my family. So I think the dance does a really good job of showing how emotional that is, and how, you know, you go back and forth until you finally just do it.
And I'm sure it's the case where taking the step of trying to get help may result in more violence.
Yeah, it's true.
So it's kind of a catch-22 in
It's
many
true.
ways. How did you guys get involved with this program? I mean, what brought you to this? If you want to tell me.
I'm a survivor myself, and I
Yeah,
utilize the
I knew you
services.
said that.
Yeah, at the exhibit, I talked at the reception about it. And I think for me, it was, once I learned about this, I had to do something. My life needed to be meaningful. I didn't just want to do something ordinary. And so that's sort of why I was drawn to working at Safe Futures, and fortunately was able to be employed.
That makes you a stronger voice, I would think, for the program and for bonding with people that need help, because you've been there.
Yeah, people do come up to you, and
I don't
if
think
you
you have to have
expose
been there,
it,
but it probably does
Yeah.
give you a better connection.
there's a community when you start speaking out, others will speak out, and it's a really beautiful
Yeah.
thing when you can connect with another human being on that level.
Right. Yeah. I think similar for me, domestic violence and sexual assault has affected my personal life and my family's. And so when I came to Safe Futures, at first I was just doing a per diem job that I thought was really meaningful and connected me to the community I had just moved to. I'm originally from Hartford. And then I fell in love because I realized how important it is to change the dynamic, right? In domestic violence and sexual assault, it's all about power and control, and people literally lose their voices and their autonomy. And so being able to be an advocate, a counselor, like an agent where you facilitate that conversation, you allow for people to know and feel that they're worthy, that they are important, that they have a right to be loved and be safe, and that you can impact a person in that way, for me it's priceless. It's like, I want to be at work every single day. I wish I didn't have to be, but when I'm there, I know that I'm doing something that is gonna do something for somebody else or their family.
And you serve women and families
Right,
and men,
right.
and explain what you can do for men. I mean, I assume men who can be violent need counseling, need help, and do you provide that, or can you hook them up with help?
Well, our services the focus of our services is for people who are victims or survivors, and domestic violence, men are also victims and can be victims. I think it's a conversation that we need to have more, and I think it's something that we need to get people talking about and realizing, and especially like boys, at the presentation, our prevention educators talked about us engaging in those conversations where we let our boys cry, where we allow our young women to talk about boundaries and things like that. So a big part of our work is just creating a space for men to come in and identify that way, because it is their reality and they are being abused. So that's why we offer the services to everyone, not just women. It's not just a woman's issue.
And we've had men at our shelter. So there's not any programs or services where we would say, no, I'm sorry, you don't qualify for that.
Right.
We're very open, especially to the LGBTQ community, who I think it's 2/3
Yep.
percent of them are in these violent situations. And so it's really important for everyone to know that, like she said, you deserve and you have a right to live your life the way you want to live it. And that can be very powerful for somebody who might not have heard that their life growing up.
Yeah. Another, I don't know, person or a thing of interest that we support is family pets, right? And we want people to know that they can reach out to us and that we are also going to consider their pets. And a lot of times people will stay
Animal
because
abuse goes along with
absolutely,
abuse.
yeah.
Unfortunately, that's where boys, girls may start abusing animals.
And sometimes that's a reason to stay, right? Because people are concerned that their family pet, their dog, their cat is going to get harmed. And so that's another thing that we don't want, for somebody to say, I can't leave because of my animal. We also will help with that as well.
This just popped in my head, but are you finding more need for you as the economic situation is worse? And I know there's an opioid crisis in the area with people using drugs, and I would think that might contribute to abuse and related problems. Have you found that's the case? Or?
I do want to point out, and maybe you could speak more to it after, about his specific question. Abuse is a decision. That person chooses to act in this manner. And so I think we try to be very careful not to correlate it to something else and give them an excuse to say, well, it was this, or we had hard economic times, or, that tends to make people stressed, and they don't always make good decisions in that. But an abuser is choosing to behave in this particular manner, choosing to abuse you, because they can behave when they're out in public. A lot of times when victims leave and it sort of gets out that they were in an unhealthy relationship, they go, oh, I didn't picture that person being like that. They're so kind, or they're so this, or they're so that. And so, you may speak differently since she works directly with the clients, and I'll let you talk about that, but it is a choice. So,
I mean, I think there's a lot of factors, right? At the core, though, what it's about is power and control. And a person taking complete control of another individual in their partnership, right? It becomes uneven. And so it's all about what this one person wants and needs. And absolutely, do other things play or impact, economy, loss of job, drugs and alcohol. Yeah, they're going to make things different, worse. I don't think those things make them better, right? But is it, like Amanda said, is it the reason why? No. I think one thing I like to have my clients or residents think about and consider, because it makes sense for somebody to look for a reason why the person they love the most, their intimate partner, their friend, the person they've given their life to, shared their life with, created a family with, is not good for them. That's hard. That's a hard thing to admit, to say the person I love also hurts me. And so they're going to attribute these characteristics to other things, and it's a way to cope, right?
Well, they blame themselves too.
Right. And so I think one thing I like to say is not, like, for example, drinking. Not all people who drink are abusive, and not all people who are abusive are drinkers. So we can't directly link one thing with the other. Does it play a role? Sometimes. Is it the reason why? No. It's about that power and control.
Yeah. And the people who work with the schools, I know they were talking about the thought process of, I guess, abusive ideas and language and what boys are expected to do, what girls are expected to do.
Absolutely.
All leads up to problems.
Absolutely.
So starting early is good, because people need to think differently to prevent themselves from getting into the abusive role, I guess. What exactly do you need from the community? This is your chance for a pitch here to hopefully get help. Our viewers are watching. Money is number one, I'm sure. You always need money to run any organization.
So part of Pam doing this exhibit in her shoes, or in their shoes, is to see if social change can come about from art and from expression. So there is a fund set up. If you go to www.safefuturesct.org, on our homepage is In Their Shoes link. You can make a donation in honor of In Their Shoes to see what we can create from this. What financial contributions can people make? All of our services are free, and so that means that, and confidential, of course. But that means that we have to be supported in order to do that. If somebody calls the hotline, we have to be able to say yes to taking them in and know that we are supported enough to be able to do that, or a court person or anything like that. If people don't have the financial capacity to give, there's volunteer opportunities. We also use, like you mentioned before, the donation center. We take in new or gently used items, household items,
clothes, shoes, toiletries, things like that.
Gift cards, that's another big thing. Small denominations of gift cards, so that way if somebody comes to us and they need something specific that we don't have, we can empower them and provide, the dignity for them to go out and buy something that they need for themselves.
Right.
Nice. I guess we should talk about, if someone does feel threatened, what should they do? What are the indications, and how do they get to the step where they seek out help?
Yeah, well, I think we want our community to know that we're here for them, that we are here to listen, that we're here to provide support, and to really help them create a plan that fits their needs, a safety plan that is going to help them do what they need to do for themselves or for their family. And so calling our hotline, I think, is a really good step. If you're not ready to come in person, give us a call. And our hotline runs 24 hours, 365 days,
Not to interrupt, but I think someone said, maybe it was you, Amanda, someone said at the program that you don't make people leave a relationship, you don't force people to do anything. You're there to listen and to help if you can.
Absolutely.
But I think that's important for people to know, that they're not calling to get forced into something they're not ready to do.
Absolutely. That's a really good point. Yeah, it's really scary to call a stranger and talk about the private, intimate
they might be calling
moments.
Just to have someone to listen.
Yeah, so call just to talk, call to make a plan. I think just call. Making that step is something that you can do if you need help.
So the first step probably is looking for help.
Absolutely.
And then from there are other steps if you're ready for it.
Yeah, and it's really important that people understand that everything is confidential. It's not, we're not going to call the police, we're not going to inform, the Department of Children and Families. I think a lot of times people feel nervous about, well, if I say this happened, what's going to happen to me or my family or my kids? Our services are confidential.
So is your success rate pretty good, or have you calculated your success rate from contact to, I guess, getting through it and getting
Well, I think
out of the abusive relationship, whether it's out of the relationship or fixing the relationship?
I think when you experience anything in your life, any sort of trauma, it sort of sticks with you. It sort of becomes a part of you. And we hope that the services we provide helps them to sort of overcome that and not be shameful by it. When we go out in the community, we do a lot of community outreach events. And I know I've run into people and they come up and say, you helped me so much. I'm now in such a good place. I'm on my own and I'm making my own money and I feel so good. So we know that it's happening, and we know that people are out there that are success stories. But we're here for the long haul. So maybe a crisis happened to you 30 years ago, you can still call the hotline because you're still post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD happens. We talk about that often with veterans, but that happens to anyone that can experience the sort of trauma that we're talking about.
Yeah. Something we see often as well is a person who we've served in any capacity. They come back to volunteer, they come back to share their story, they offer group support, they go to table events where we're represented in different places, and I think that's a really beautiful experience. But it's not the one that we always get, and it's not what we're looking for. I like to think that we plant seeds, and I hope that they grow and that they flourish, because people know that they can, right? That they have the resiliency to survive, and they already are doing it. So sometimes we get to be a part of those stories, and that's really beautiful, and sometimes we don't. But at least we know that we impacted them in that moment.
Mm-hmm. Certainly, we all thank you for your work and the support you're giving to people and trying to rectify abusive situations. It's important people to know that they have options and can escape a dangerous relationship if they decide that's what they need to do. I really hope the viewers will pay attention here and are moved to contribute, either helping the mission with a financial donation or maybe volunteering or helping in other ways to make it work better. They need you, and they will appreciate you.
Yes.
Yep.
If anyone wants to do that, the number to call is the office number 860-447-0366. And I think it's going to be on the screen, but the hotline number to call is 860-701-6000. If you think you need help or you know someone who may need help. Pam Gordonier's exhibit, In Their Shoes, will be at Lyman Allen Museum through July 30th. It'd really be good to go see that. You might be surprised how it affects you, and it's definitely worth a checkout. The dance and the poetry performance is going to be on June 28th, also at Lyman Allen Museum. There'll be a reception afterwards with some treats. Maybe you're going to be there. Are you going to be?
Yep.
I'm gonna try.
You could talk to
I
them
think we're both
directly?
going to be there. Yeah.
Okay. Terri will be filming that too. Anything you want to get in the last minute here? We're almost running out of time.
I think just thanking Pam and the community that sort of put this together, and you guys for allowing us to be here to share our story of Safe Futures. If anyone wants to learn more, please reach out, because we have to start talking about this.
Right.
We can't just keep it behind closed doors anymore. It's so important. We're at a great place now where we can actually create social change. We might be able to envision a community where violence isn't tolerated and every child that's growing up feels supported.
Right.
I don't know if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I mean, her installation is all about doing things with intent, right? So I just encourage the community, if you need to do it for yourself, if you need to do it for a loved one, or simply just because it's the right thing to do, help, reach out, do something good.
Great. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nazmie. I appreciate you both coming and helping us hear more about this issue, because I think it is important. Thank you for watching Community Buzz. Stay well, and as Pam Gordonier would say, live with intent to do good.
Yep.
Do it.